The cameras are ready. The microphones are ready. Let's get ready for Wi-Fi.
John Mcavoy, thanks for coming on. I don't know where to start really, but I think what I want to do is talk about what is your discipline, because you've had two lives, and you've got one discipline was one, and then you've moved on to another, and I want to really talk about how you've made the transition from one very different discipline to another.
So I compete. Well, firstly, thank you for having me on, by the way. I appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
So I used to row, and I realised that I took up the sport of rowing quite late in my life, and I wasn't going to be able to get to the level I wanted to get to. So I started rowing on the water when I was 29 years old. So excuse the pun, but I missed the boat. And then I kind of realised, for me to be successful as an athlete, I had to do something where it was on me and I was an individual. So I don't want to sort of spoil the first part of this, but I watched a TV program on Channel 4 called Trans World Sport. And there was
remember that.
It
used to be on a Sunday.
Yeah, on a Sunday morning. On a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And they showcased different sports, and there was a sport on it called Ironman, and the World Championships was in Kona, Hawaii. And I just remember watching this event and watching these men and women get off bikes after riding 112 miles and running like a 2:30 marathon, and I was just in awe. And I thought, I want to do one of them one day. So when I realised I couldn't make it as a rower to the level I wanted to get to, I then sort of made the decision Ironman was going to be my sport.
Right.
Started doing Ironman, and now I sort of evolved out of that, and then I went into cycling, just pure cyclist, and now I'm doing trail running. So I do like ultra marathons in the mountains.
Right. So that's a transition within sport, and so the story before that was that your discipline was criminality in a way.
Yeah.
You probably didn't see it that way back then. I don't know if you did or you didn't, but tell us a little bit, just sort of define what you were as a discipline. What was your skill?
Yeah, so I grew up in an environment of organised crime from being a very young child. My biological dad died before I was born. So when I was growing up in the world, I was growing up in this massively loving household. Like my mum, my sister, my mum's aunt, like my aunties, my mum's sisters brought me up. And I had so much love. Like I've got no negative memories at all as being a child. But when I was 8 years old, my mum's ex-husband got released after serving 16 years in prison for armed robbery. And he played a massive role in my life. Like he became like a father figure to me. And then he brought me into this world of organised crime, and that whole world become completely normalised to me.
Yeah.
Then I was very driven as a child. I wanted to be successful. I attached that success as a kid to money, and then suddenly I saw an attainable path to get that money with all these men that were multi-millionaires out committing organised crime, which was armed robberies.
Yeah.
And then that was the path I chose to start walking down when I was like 14, 15 years old.
Flipping heck, 14, 15.
Yeah, like...
So by hook or by crook, it was money. Money was the goal.
Yeah.
And that your skill was...
Yeah, like as a kid, I vividly remember when I was at primary school, I used to get quite upset because I didn't have a dad. Like, and everyone used to tease me at school. My mum explained to me that my dad had died before I was born. So then from being very young, I knew I wasn't going to live forever. Now, how that sort of manifested itself was like I wanted to achieve something in my life. I wanted my life to have a meaning. And I was so driven as a kid. Like I just didn't want to be normal. Like I wanted my life to have a significance. I wanted to achieve something. I developed this like obsession as a kid with history. My mum used to take me to like London Dungeons and HMS Belfast. She used to get me these magazines.
How old were you then?
At 7, 8 years old.
7 or 8, yeah.
And I used to read about these people in history that had died like hundreds of years before me, but they had achieved something in their lives. So I had this inside me, this burning ambition as a kid to want to achieve something and want my life to have a meaning. And like I said, when this man came into my life when I was 8, my mum's ex-husband, like I didn't know at the time he was just released from prison for armed robbery. But I did see that he had all the trappings of wealth, big watch, nice cars. And the more time I spent with him, and the more time I spent with people that were obviously much older than me, like his friends, they were all incredibly wealthy. But I didn't know where that money was coming from. And it was only as I got a little bit older, I started to have an understanding of seeing some newspaper clippings that my granddad had in his flat about my mum's ex-husband. And he was a multi-millionaire when he was 21 years old. He grew up in South London. And then
Is that where you're from, John?
Yes,
Yeah.
Crystal Palace. I was
Crystal
brought up.
Palace.
So your only perception really of gaining notoriety was that avenue. That was the only thing you had access to, really.
Yeah, it's a way of life, right? Like it was so normal to me. Like I as I got older, like everyone that I knew was engaged in that world. And then everyone else, we called them like they were straight goers, they're normal people, right? And I was in this world over here, and I was separated from that world.
Was a straight goer seen as like a kind of weakness or something like that, or?
No, not at all. Like again, when you're in that world, I had this moral compass put inside me, right? Like working class people, they weren't the enemy, and this is what got projected onto me as a kid. And I started taking this on. So, for instance, I loved going to school when I was a kid. I loved learning. History was my favourite subject, like I've spoken about before.
Yeah.
And then suddenly my teachers become an extension of the state, and my hatred towards authority and like the system, the government, because it was kind of like pushed inside me that everything was corrupt. Like, and my stepdad used to say to me about the working man gets fucked by the system, we fuck the system. And he used to say that to me all the time.
Like Robin Hood sort of thing.
Yeah, but you kind of you would think of it like that, and I'm not pretending for a moment I was like Robin Hood, like robbing from the rich take to the poor. But you look at the system, you think the system is so corrupt, and I'm not going to be a victim of the system. When I was again being around these older people that were projecting on how unfair the world was, and then it kind of really did take over my own personality and the way I perceive the world and myself.
Yeah.
And did your schooling then obviously suffer? Because by the sounds of it, you was a smart kid, enjoyed school, and as you got to your sort of mid-teens, sort of went off.
Massively. Like I started truanting heavily when I was like 15 years old, and I had an amazing teacher called Mr. Vickers. And so, for instance, like my teachers, I didn't notice at the time, but like my family was in the national newspapers quite a lot. So my teachers would have been reading this stuff, and there was a film made about my uncle years ago. So all of these things, my teachers knew what my home life was like. And he did everything he could to keep me engaged with the education system, like everything. He should have excluded me. He should have. And when I got to 16 years old, I didn't do any coursework leading into my GCSEs. But my mum got really upset. She said, you need to go and sit your exams. So because my mum got upset, I went to school and I did my exams. I just did the exam and none of the coursework leading into it.
It rings a bell. I did exactly the same thing. Yeah,
And
I remember that. Yeah,
and sort of I sat them, and then when I went to go and pick up my GCSE results, like a month or something later, Mr. Vickers was in the assembly hall, and I will never forget this to the day that I die. And I was the last student to turn up to pick up my results, and I went into the assembly hall. And he had the envelope with all the grades in it, and he said, do you want to open it or do you want me to open it and tell you what you got? And I said, you open it. Completely disinterested. And he opened up the envelope, and I remember he looked at me and there was this sense of disappointment in his eyes. And he went, if only you would have applied yourself, what you could have done. And I still managed to get decent grades, like I didn't do any coursework.
Yeah.
And he said to me, what are you going to do now? And I said, I'm going to go to college. I was lying. And he said, is that what you're going to do? And I said, yeah. And he gave me the exam results, and I walked down the end of my school drive, Beckenham. I went to a school called Kelsey Park, and I ripped the exam results up and chucked them in the bin because they didn't mean anything to me.
No.
That wasn't the life that I was going to engage with after leaving school.
Yeah.
That's nuts, that is. So around that age then, so you're starting to get into a bit of trouble or going into that world. Was it something that you, to your stepdad, was saying, look, I want to get involved in this? Or was he sort of dragging you into it?
Do you know what, Darren? It's a tough one, right? Because he loved me so much, and like I said, like I was so protected as a kid. I felt so much love and protection from all these people I'm talking about now, and like I don't think he realised the impact he was having on me as a kid, to the degree where, like when I was a teenager, he was telling me never to talk in cars. He was telling me never to talk in the house. Like he always used to say to me, never be attached to things that you can't just walk away from. Like, but I don't think he realised the impact this was really going to have on me. I don't think he thought he was grooming me into being a criminal, but he saw something inside me because he never had a son and I didn't have a dad, and I think it was a perfect storm of events that brought us together. And he saw something inside me. And like when I was at school one day, I can remember I was moaning because I lived quite far from my school, because at this point we moved from Crystal Palace out to Kent, and I didn't want to get the bus in the morning. and he had a Porsche 911. And I was moaning at my mum, like saying how far it was and stuff like that. And everything was a test. He wanted to see if I had a bottle. So he said, take the car. So I said, all right, I'll take the car then. And he gave me his car keys and I drove the car to Beckenham. And I know it sounds bizarre, but
How old was you?
I was like 15 years old. But this was, everything with him was always a test. And he always wanted to see if you're a man.
What path you're going to take,
back it up. So then that had a big impact on me. So then, like, when I was 16, I feel embarrassed saying it now, but when I was 16 years old, like, I left school and I went and bought a sawn-off shotgun. And I always say this is how perverse that world is of organised crime, where a grown adult man would sell a child a firearm. But that's what happened. He found out I bought a gun. So then in his head, he thinks by protecting me, it's safer for me to basically come further in towards him.
Do it with me, not on your own, kind of thing.
Basically, yeah. And then, but that was his way of protecting me. So I know it sounds a little bit bizarre.
Yeah.
People think that kids don't know. Like, they think that kids are like, oh, you know, they're not really taking it in. But like, you're soaking it all up all the time from that very early age. When you met him from the age of 8, you're soaking it all up. I remember my dad always saying to me, and my dad sort of was on a rocky road, I think, when he was younger, and he was always guiding me away from that. But at the same time, I understood when I did stand up for myself, and when I didn't back down to something, he was proud of that. And it's sort of things that are ingrained in you without you even realising it. You know, you want to be like your male figures, do you know what I mean? So you're looking up to this guy, and even if he was saying to you, you don't want to go down the road I've gone down, you still look up to him. You still want to be like him. You still want to follow in his footsteps.
Definitely. And also, again, being a kid, like, I can remember these things vividly. Like, it was like party tricks. Like, he would give me money, and I was really good at counting money really fast. Yeah. And he used to, all his mates and stuff, and they'd like look at him and he'd go bang. And then I had a very good memory. Like, I used to go around London and go out to Kent and stuff and follow security vans making deliveries. And I used to remember I used to remember all the registration plates, so I knew how much money got delivered to each bank and building site. Yeah. And I'd hand this information on to like other criminals, and they used to call me Brains out of the puppet show. I can't remember. But as a young kid, Thunderbirds, that was it. Not that I look like him, but like as a kid, you're getting all this admiration from these people. And then from older people,
like Goodfellas, isn't it?
It is to a
degree. That's exactly what I've got in my head.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I've got in my head.
Because his dad's trying to pull him. Robert De Niro's the dad.
He was like Irish in it when he.
And he was like, don't go near them. But then the kids like, these are cool.
And it's exciting, right? Like when you're a kid, and that's why I totally can relate to when young kids get sucked into that world and how they get so blinkered into it, because it is exciting. Like, you're a kid. And then you're getting told to live a certain way by the system and by schooling. And then suddenly this group of men over here that are all incredibly wealthy are living outside the realms of the law. They're doing what they want when they want. They're kind of free-spirited. They're free to do what they want when they want. Like, it's very intoxicating as a kid to see that.
They're charming. They're laddos. Like
my mum's a florist. She's earning minimum wage. And she's telling me, you need to go and get a job. Yeah. And in these, like my stepdad had an apartment on the Champs-Élysées. Yeah. Driving 100. But it has a massive impact over you as a kid.
Can you remember that sort of the first thing that you ever sort of done, and like in that world? And how was your conscience at the time? Your own conscience? Did you think, flipping it, this is a bit dodgy, this, or is it just part and parcel of what you thought your life was going to be?
But again, all that world just becomes completely normal to you. Like, it really, really does. Like,
so your conscience is clear because it's just part of the world that you're in.
Yeah. And you kind of, like, I suppose to a degree, and again, it's a process that I've gone through in my life. Like, I remember, like, years ago, I was on a victim awareness course when I was in prison, and at the beginning, when I didn't want to change, I can remember, like, I was in a maximum security prison called Full Sutton, and we was all sitting around this group, and you had guys there convicted of armed robbery, drug traffickers that have made millions of pounds, and the lady that was running the victim awareness course brought this old lady in, and she was a victim of a crime. Like, it was Christmas Eve, I'll never forget it, and someone burgled her house. And they stole all of their presents. They stole her husband's diabetes medication, and we're all sitting there thinking, "What a piece of shit!" Like, this old lady's been a victim. Because what you do, you have your own moral compass of what's right and wrong. And that's how you perceive what you're doing.
That's why I said Robin Hood, because Robin Hood he was stealing, but he wasn't stealing from his own. Do you know what I mean? So for them, it sort of felt like they weren't doing wrong. But you've obviously done a lot of thinking about your past and sort of found a way out of that and turned your energy into a positive rather than what's perceived by the law as a negative.
When was the first time you got in trouble?
So I had never been in trouble with the police until I got arrested for conspiracy to commit armed robbery. So I had no previous convictions.
What age is this?
I was 18 years old.
18.
So at this point, my stepdad had just been arrested by the Serious and Organised Crime Agency, and I didn't get arrested. And I don't regret now not doing this, because if I didn't, I would never gone to prison. I always think prison was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right.
But I had the opportunity to go to Australia. My sister was there. I wasn't actually wanted or anything for anything, but the police, obviously, I've popped up because my stepdad's got arrested, and then the flying squad in London had a police surveillance operation on me. And me being a young kid, I was quite arrogant, and I was like, well, I'm going to keep going. But I didn't realise, obviously, the Serious and Organised Crime Agency had told the robbery squad that they thought I was an active armed robber.
So what age are you then?
18.
This is at 18?
18 years old.
So they'd been following you for how long?
So they were watching my stepdad for months, the Serious and Organised Crime Agency. He got arrested, and then the flying squad, the robbery squad in London, started watching me probably a week or so after my stepdad got arrested.
Right.
And obviously I thought there was a chance of that happening, but it didn't deter me. Went to go and commit an armed robbery on a post office van. And basically, as I was driving there, the police, I didn't notice at the time, they were following me. They call them gunships. So you had a surveillance team, and behind them you have armed police. And as I was driving out towards Dartford, there was like a DVLA stop with car taxis and stuff. And they were told that morning not to stop me going through, because they knew they followed me the night before parking cars up.
Leave him is for us. Sort of thing.
Basically. And someone with a whistle didn't know this, and he blew his whistle and he pointed to my car to go in, and there was no way I was going to stop. So I drove off, and then, basically this whole armed police convoy started chasing me, and then I got arrested about 10 minutes later.
Just quickly on that. So it's a van you're trying to take. What are you hoping for in that van? How
much money?
Yeah, what would be a disappointment? Say if you got it and there was nothing in it.
Well, you could kind of make a guess by how many boxes they're taking in and what they're doing on certain days. So certain days of the week they'd be doing certain things.
So it
like
weren't just a random.
No.
Right.
You would know at certain times of the day they would be delivering money to places. And if they'd be filling up the cash machine or giving money into the bank or the post office or something.
Yeah.
So probably about 50 grand.
But then, is it then big? Was it the same back then?
Yeah.
Don't it smash the notes up or something?
I think it's all evolved since then, mate. I think
back then it was a bit you get the money.
Well, yeah, and then also the guy in the back of the van, you could make him chuck the bags out of the van. So you can make him chuck them out. The guy that's in the back pushing them through. But as I on my way to do that, that was where it was like an ambush.
Just going back a bit before we go forward. You said at the beginning that you had a very happy, loving upbringing, and I totally, believe what you're saying. It was a very maternal presence. It felt, from those younger years, because you had your mum and your sister, and you were loved. You knew you were loved. But it feels like there was definitely a hole in you that needed filling from the absence of a paternal presence. Do you feel like that was a massive part of why you ended up expressing yourself so extremely in the way you did? But basically you're an extreme character, right? You haven't just half done it. You've fully done it. You've fully done everything you've done. And it's like when there's this hole in you, it makes everything you do, the objective is to try and make that hole go away. You feel fulfilled, or you feel whole. And it feels like you kind of dived into, this is paternal, like not consciously, but it felt like it, and this might fill the hole. And all of that kind of all that transpired after that was all an attempt to try and plug the hole that was there. Am I right?
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
I often say it, like when I look back, I think I've got far more of my mum's characteristics like the way I am today, and my outlook on life. Like, my mum's a very caring, empathetic person, very generous, very loving. She's very, very caring. One of the most caring people I've ever. Like, my mum's the sort of person, she walk down the road and see someone homeless and.
So
give
you're
them half
saying
the
you're
money.
all of them things?
No, I would say.
That's convenient.
I would say no, but I'd say I would. That was my mum put that into me.
Yeah.
But again, and like I said at the beginning, if Billy, my mum's ex-husband, does not come into my life, we are not having this podcast talking about what we're talking about now. He was the one that shaped and guided me, because I agree with what you're saying in regards to not having that male role model.
But like the stats say, if you're a child from a single parent household and the dad's missing, you're much more likely to end up in prison. Yeah, like it's a known thing, you know. But another question, sorry. Do you know much about your dad, your biological dad, and genetically, do you see any sort of parallels in who you are and what you've become? Was he into that world in any way?
No.
Was he a rebel?
No, he wasn't. So his brother Michael was the one that went to prison for Brinksmat.
Okay.
But my dad used to see that world that they were stupid, because like my mum, obviously I've never interacted with my dad. My mum's,
through your mum,
through my mum telling me this. So I have a lot of my dad's characteristics. So my dad was like a workaholic. He owned 3 nightclubs, betting offices, he owned a building site. And basically what killed him at 38 years old, he had a massive heart attack, went to bed next to my mum, then didn't wake up. He owned these nightclubs, he's at the nightclubs all night, and then he's waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go on the site to make sure everyone's working. So his lifestyle was so unhealthy in regards of that, and his diet wasn't great as well.
So super driven.
Super driven. And my mum said if he was alive, there was literally zero chance I would have ever gone down that road of being like all them, because he saw it as stupid. He said you can make more money going legitimate than doing what they do, and you don't risk going to prison. But again, it just shows you, right? Like you can have this drive and ambition, and if it's misguided, and believe me, mate, I have seen it so many times over the years where I've gone to prisons and visited kids and sat with them, and they've got so much potential, and they could do so much with their lives, and they have these skills, and they're completely misused into something very negative. And some of them, they don't get a second chance. Like the sentences that these kids are getting today are so big that they're never getting out, or they're going to be like middle-aged men, and they're teenagers now.
Yeah. Do you know your lineage, your dad's side? Do you know if that is a characteristic that's throughout? Like your dad's dad, was he like that?
Yeah.
I'm only asking because I'm really interested in like where this drive comes from. Like there's got to be a genetic element, but there's also environmental elements.
Yeah, I think like my granddad come over from Ireland before the Second World War. And he wanted to get away from all the troubles, all the stuff in Northern Ireland. He wanted to reset up a life. He come over here, and he worked incredibly hard. And he had, I think, 8, 9 kids.
Right.
So he worked, he grafted, right? And he was a working man. He was a working man. So there's
and then your dad would have been one of 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Which then makes him, I've got to do something special in order to be sort of noticed, or I'm driven to get attention in a way in a household of 8 kids, and then he becomes, or it's sort of ingrained in him to work really hard, and I don't know, it's sort of like a turn of events that his drive ends up sort of killing him really, because he's so driven, and now you're so driven that it's like you put a lot of pressure on yourself. But you've gone from doing that in a really negative way to now turning that into sort of physically pushing yourself, physically driven. And is there a correlation between what you were as a criminal and what you are as an athlete? Can you see that is sort of the same person? Yeah. But you're just, it's a different vehicle.
Yeah, 100%. So when I was in prison and I discovered I had an ability, like a physical ability, which I didn't know I had, and a prison officer spotted one day. I was on an indoor rowing machine, and he walked behind me, and as the rowing machine paused, he looked over my shoulder and he went, "Wow, that is super fast." And bear in mind, I'm not in the real world. Like I'm in this little bubble of prison, and I knew I was fit for prison. Like when we used to do the competitions at Christmas. They used to have one called Superstars, and I just used to beat everyone. Like, no one got close to me. And then when they would do like power to weight competitions, like deadlift, strong squat, and bench press, I would always be like the third strongest in the whole prison for my weight. But I didn't know what an athlete was. These things, this didn't ever compute to me as a kid. I had no interest in sport whatsoever. But I always knew I was physically stronger and fitter than people in prison. And when this prison officer walked behind me and he saw the monitor throws at 10,000 metres I'd rode, he went away and he come back a couple of days later and he gave me all these pieces of paper and had all the world and British records on an indoor rowing machine. And I looked at them and I remember thinking they couldn't be real because I nearly break them. I could nearly break them at that moment. And then I was going through this process of, I felt lost. Like my best mate died in a car crash, committing a robbery in the Netherlands, and I wanted to do something else with my life.
I heard about that,
And then it just planted this seed in my head, and I went back to my cell and I really pondered it and thought about it, and I thought this could be the vehicle for me to turn my life around. Like, I could use my body to get me out of this place. And
do you remember the first, like, so you're in a cell, like you've done a lot of solitary from what I understand, and all of a sudden you find the rowing machine and you're like, it's like a musician finding the guitar.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you found the thing.
100%.
You found it. Like so you get on this rowing machine for the first time. Like, talk me through how that first, like, you found your guitar. Tell
100%.
me, talk me through it.
It was, again, at the time, I didn't know what all these words were, like endorphins and flow state.
Yeah.
But I remember being the first time I ever got an indoor rowing machine, I was 26 years old.
By the way, they are the worst things in the world.
They're great though, Darren.
They're great though, Darren.
It is the hardest thing ever. Like, they are so hard.
They break you down. They do break you down. I've had some very emotional experiences sitting on those things, mate. But when I got on it for the first time, I was 26. I rode 32,000 meters, and I just remember being on that rowing machine in that prison gym. And it transported me out of that prison. It literally, it was like I created this little porthole and it took me out the other side of that wall and everyone left me alone. People didn't speak to me, prison officers left me alone, prisoners. And I, because it made me feel so good and it got me off the wing and it got me down the gym because I was doing a row for a children's charity in Nottingham. So they give me a special gym pass because people have this illusion when you're in prison, you get as much gym as you want. You don't. What happens is, because they try to keep gangs apart in prison, only certain wings can get gyms at certain days. But there was a guy, and I hope he's listening to this because he used to love boxing, called Mickey Steele. He's from Tottenham. And he was a little bit overweight, but he was down the gym every day on this rowing machine. And I said to him, how do you get so much gym? And he said, I'm doing this charity row. I've run 1,000,000 meters as long as it takes me, but I get a special gym pass and can come down here whenever I want in the day.
Because you're doing it for charity.
Because he's doing it for charity.
Yeah.
So I asked to do the same thing. I asked a gym officer called Craig that headed up the PE department, and he looked and made sure I didn't have any gang issues, and he gave me the pass. He said, as long as you raise money, you can come down here and do it. So that first row, when I was 26 years old, that 30K, 32K, I went down again, did it the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day, and then I rode 1,000,000 meters in a month. But it made me feel amazing. Yeah. It honestly, it was like I found this flow state,
escaped
the rhythmical breathing, and like it was like the body my body and the machine intertwined it, and the machine could become an extension of my body, and the numbers were going down and down and down. And then I asked if I could do another 1,000,000 and then another 1,000,000. That was 3 months. And then one day a prisoner went to me, do you realise if you row 5,000,000 that's equivalent to rowing across the Atlantic, 5,000K? And I thought it was a cool thing to say that I've done. So
it is a cool thing.
No, it is a cool thing to say.
It is.
And then when I was into that final 4th million, going into the 5th, that was when Darren walked behind me that day. And what happened was, I had this ability in my body that I didn't know I possessed, this physical gift that I had since I was a kid, and I never realised I had it. And in that moment, he spotted it, and I was incredibly talented at aerobic activity, which I didn't know I was. Yeah. I had no idea, man. I had no idea.
But it's the perfect storm again, though, because I'd say there's a lot of people out there that have a physical ability they don't know about, but they don't have that drive that you've got. Like, we just looked at that poem on the wall, don't quit. Like, it's you. Like, you won't quit. You've got on, all right, you're pushing yourself, but you're pushing yourself past limits that other people won't. Even if they're physically capable. Like, me and Darren have mixed with some great boxers over the years, and some of them, Dal, that, you know, you can see they've got physical talent, but when they take that body shot, they ain't continuing. And you obviously had that as well. So, and again, I'll go back to that hole in you that I believe, my feeling is that when you've got that hole in you and you find the thing, you find the guitar or the paintbrush or the rowing machine or the boxing gloves, you find that thing that expresses that energy. That's it. You can't get away from it. You can't leave it.
You're drawn to. Yeah.
It was also like, it was the suffering. There was something I found beautiful about the suffering. Like when I was doing it, and someone like, I remember I broke the world record for 100,000 meters. And when I got to 85 kilometers, I have never in my life ever been in so much physical pain. Because where I was in prison, I had no access to sports nutrition, no electrolytes. It's just me and a prison officer, right? I only got a heart rate monitor. And it was through sheer force of will. And I remember being on that machine and I was in so much physical pain. Honestly, like my lats were cramping up, my hamstrings. And I always remember when I got arrested, the policeman that arrested me, his name was DCI Curry. And I remember that our last 15K of suffering, and I thought, I am not a piece of shit. And I can do something. This is my moment to do something in my life. And at that point, that's what motivated me. In that very moment of that suffering, and the suffering made me feel alive. Like it generally did. Like, because when you're in prison, someone once said to me, it's like you live one long day and every day is the same. And you exist, you don't live. And when I was in that moment, that suffering and that pain made me feel, it lit something up inside me.
Yeah, do you think that physical pain was somehow alleviating the emotional pain somehow?
Yeah, like...
It's almost like you've got to go through the physical pain to expel the emotional pain that's
like,
within you somewhere. That's what I'm talking about, that expression.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, even now, like when I do events now, and like I said before we come on the podcast, I did a race back in August and I had a virus and I didn't know I was sick until I started racing. And it was a 55K ultramarathon in the mountains. It had 3,500 meters of elevation gain. And I just completely fell apart. Like my body just broke down. Like I didn't know I was sick. The illness come out of me during the race. And I just remember pulling back, like even now, I use perspective. So like nothing's worse than when I was in prison, I spent a whole calendar year in isolation, had very limited human contact. And I always draw back on that moment to fuel it for something positive to get me round that course. Because it's perspective. This, even though now I feel like shit, nothing's worse than that. And that's given me a great perspective in life about like when you can leverage something that could be perceived as being quite negative into something that's positive and use it as positive fuel.
So I just want to go back, sorry. We'll end up going all over the place with this because it's such a fascinating story. Yeah, they just ping up and you end up jumping. You can't help it. But I just want to go back to that moment. So you were arrested for the first time. I'm guessing it's that PC Curry.
Yeah. He arrested me twice, by the way, as a kid, and then arrested me again.
So then that last time,
yeah.
So that last time, you knew you was in big trouble. Talk us through that. What happened? So you get arrested, and then what?
So when I was 18, I got arrested, and I went through like the court system, and I got 5 years in prison. I got a plea bargain the day before my trial was meant to start at the Old Bailey.
So if you plead guilty, you get less time?
Yeah, they offered me a plea bargain, lesser charges, and I ended up getting 5 years.
Okay.
So you banged to right.
What were the charges?
For conspiracy to commit robbery.
And so, did you was there a firearm in the car?
Yes, yeah.
So
but I had no previous convictions. I was young. So there was mitigating circumstances.
Right.
I think the judge took into account like my home environment and stuff. So when I'm in prison, that first I got 5 years. So I knew I was only going to serve 2.5, 3. Didn't want to change. To me, like again, all the adults that I grew up around as a kid, the male role models in my life, to me, change equated to weakness. So if you changed, the system had broken you. And I used to hear these stories like when I was a little kid sitting there and all these men are talking about people they saw in prison and they went into prison and they were on their hands and knees cleaning out like the prison officers like rooms and stuff like where their coffee room and they'd be the tea boy. Yeah. And so obviously when I go to prison, I've got this whole defiance about me when I'm in there. And I'm like, you ain't getting me to do what you want me to do. So people say, what does it feel like? Was I scared? And I wasn't scared at all. Like I genuinely wasn't scared. And I go into this environment and again, the sort of the outward show of defiance towards them being difficult, doing everything I could just not to comply. I'll comply as little as I possibly had to. And then they let me out after being in there for just under 3 years. I was 100 times worse than the kid they locked up. So I've come out now, I'm even more like criminal minded. Now
because of the people you've mixed with and...
Yeah. Like when I was 18 years old, they did something called Star Me Up. So they couldn't put me in a young offenders institution because they thought I was a high escape risk because of my stepdad and stuff. So I had to be moved from a young offenders institution. I was there for one night and they moved me to a place called Wood Hill, which was a maximum security men's prison. So I walk onto this men's wing as an 18-year-old kid. Like it's a Cat E prison with all these guys that are in there for armed robbery, drugs and obviously then the prison officers are also, it's a bizarre situation. Like they're also praising you. Because like they kind of see you as like this young kid. Like there was only
You're an apprentice almost.
Yeah, it's a weird one because they see you as like being like a proper criminal because what you're in there for. And I went on the wing and you're getting all this admiration of prison officers and
why the officers?
Because I think they looked at me as a young kid that was a Category A prisoner in a men's prison. And they're thinking, you must be really game. It's so bizarre, Darren. Honestly, Darren. Like when I think back now, like it is so bizarre, right?
Also, that those prison officers, the people that they're accessing every day, the likes of paedophiles and all sorts in there. So, in the scheme of who they're mixing with, you're
like a proper criminal. Yeah.
Probably cut from a similar cloth to what they were, so they can relate. Whereas a lot of the people that are in there, you know, raping and murdering women and paedophiles and stuff like that, they're scum, but you're not, kind of thing.
No, exactly it. That is exactly it. And then sort of, so you've got that whole dynamic. And anyway, I got kind of moved out of Wood Hill once I got to a certain part of my sentence. Then they moved me to a young offenders institution because now they downgraded me and I was getting to the back end of my sentence. Then I'll get released. So I'm back out on the streets. I was 100 times worse than before I went in there. I was out of prison for a few days. I found tracking devices on my car. So I know the police were already on me straight away off the bat.
How'd you find them? Have you got like a scan?
Yeah, I was immensely like paranoid when I got out. So a friend of mine was a mechanic, and I took my car. He put it on the ramp, and he phoned me up and said, "Your car needs some work doing to it." So he said, "Can you come down to the garage?" So later on that day, I've gone down to the garage, and he's gone near the car, and he's gone like this, and he's putting his little boxes off and stuff. So anyway, I lived this typical lifestyle you now expect, like because I'm thinking, right, it's all in. So I know if I lived in the UK, I'm going back to prison. I had friends and family that lived abroad. I went to the Netherlands, then I went to Spain. I was living 100 miles an hour. And I come back to UK just for a friend's birthday for a few days. And then I met up with one of my stepdad's old friends that I grew up with as a kid. He basically said, "Do you want to commit a robbery?" At the beginning, I said no. And then he told me the sum of money. And again, the greed overcome me. And I thought, do you know what? It's easy. I'll do it. And then go back out and go back to Spain. And no one even know I've been in the country and stuff. And it was the best decision I've ever made. Like, I didn't know that day there was a 100 police surveillance operation, watching him for months. I've just walked into this massive surveillance operation with him. And then 3 days later, I end up getting arrested in South London. But this time, like...
During committing the crime?
Yeah. So basically, the police, because the police had been watching him for so many months, they were just about to arrest him, right? But then I've then come in at the back end of it. So then they're now having to make a decision, like, do we extend the operation thinking that I'm now going to bolt on to what he's doing? And they decided to do that. So as we were going to commit the offence, we were parking the cars up, and basically they made the decision that was enough evidence, and bang, we both got arrested before it happened.
And so, you know, the first time you got arrested and that occasion, what's communication like with your stepdad and that? Is it like you getting a pat on the back? Or?
No, so like the last time, Darren, I saw my stepdad, I was getting moved to the Old Bailey. So because I was a young offender and I was in Wood Hill, because it was the only place they could put me, they transferred me down to Belmarsh because I was at the Old Bailey. But when I was in Belmarsh, the Belmarsh governor said, we're not having an 18-year-old on the main wing in Belmarsh prison with Category A prisoners. Right. So what they did there, they put me in a segregation unit for like 2 nights to take me to the Old Bailey, to take me back to Wood Hill. So they couldn't do it in one trip in the morning. And when I was in the reception area at Belmarsh, ready to go to court to the Old Bailey, I heard my stepdad's voice, and they were transferring him out of Belmarsh to a prison. And I shouted out, "Billy, Billy," and I heard him say to a prison officer or someone, like, "I can hear my boy, can I see my boy?" And then I could hear like feet rustling to the door, and then the cell flap opened, and I'm in a holding cell in Belmarsh prison, ready to go to the Old Bailey. And
what a coincidence.
And mate, it's mad, mate. It's the last time I ever saw him. I ever spoke to him in person.
Really?
And then I'm in the cell and I've got up, and I remember seeing him, and he was handcuffed. He was handcuffed to a prison officer. He had a bright yellow and blue suit on. So when they transfer you, when they put you in the Cat A vans. And I just remember feeling so sorry for him. Like, as a man, when I grew up, that was so powerful and so strong, it was like watching, I suppose the only way I can explain it is like seeing like Superman. He ain't Superman anymore. And he just looked like an old man.
The hero's sort of
handcuffed
diminished.
to a kid that was half his age. And then I just felt sorry for him.
And he was going...
He was getting transferred to another prison.
And so he went to that prison, and what happened?
That was it. That was the last time I ever saw of him. He got 2 life sentences for conspiracy to rob.
So he'll do life.
Yeah, he's still in there now.
But you don't talk to him anymore?
No. I stopped. I was in communication with him until 2009. To everyone, this isn't just him. This is all my people that I used to associate with. And when my mate died, and I wanted to turn my life around and go down a different road, like, I know from my own experience that for me to live a positive, happy, healthy life, I needed to completely disconnect from that world. I had to, as hard as it was with people, mate. And even today, like, there's certain people in my life from years ago that you share experiences with, right? And I do care about them still. I really, really do. But I knew for my life to move in a different direction, I had to completely detach from that world, and I needed my life to go down a different positive road.
Did you have a conversation with him saying, look, I can't talk to you anymore?
Yeah, like when we used to be in, like, because we couldn't speak to each other in prison because you wouldn't be able to call from prison to prison, but we used to write letters. And then, like 2009, my mate died on November the 14th. And when I started going through the transition of change, and I realised I was good at sport, I just wrote him a letter one day, and it wasn't like a Dear John. It was just like, I need my life to go down a different road. And I'll always love you, but I need my life to travel down a different road. And that was the last I'd ever spoke to him. He speaks to my mum. He still phones up my mum, and my mum, like, he's mega proud. I know he is. Like, my mum says, like, the prison officers come in and they'll watch me, like, doing a TV interview, or he'll read about me in a newspaper. And like, he's proud of what I've gone on to do in my life, and I think he accepts it. And to be honest, I think a lot of my friends from years ago.
And what's your feeling about him now? Like, towards him, rather, sorry.
Like, you can't blame everyone in life for the bad if you don't blame them for the good. Like, when I was a kid, like, I was ambitious, but I was also quite shy. And he used to say to me, like, you've got to realise you have to be able to communicate. And he taught me these skills about communication and mixing with different people. Like, you say to me all the time, don't just mix with criminals, like, mix with other people. And he'd take me on meetings to meet, like, accountants or lawyers.
That's what I was trying to say about, like, you found this talent, but also within you had these personality traits that have been installed in you, probably by him as well as your mum. And that's what has made you such a winning machine in a way. You know, that's because again, even when I look at his life, like, he could have, like, his life would have been so different. Like, he watched his dad get murdered when he was 16 years old. 3 men stabbed his dad to death in a pub, and that that did something to him psychologically. So he had that hole in him.
Yeah, and then suddenly he ended up becoming one of the most notorious armed robbers in the United Kingdom. Yeah, like, that was the big shift in his life and his outlook. If that wouldn't have happened, he had all the abilities and skills. He
didn't find that thing, that positive thing to express himself through. No. It was like, he's only got that, so I'm going to take that over nothing. But he was just not lucky enough to find that thing that you did, the rower. You know, the rower, and then that turned into a lot. Yeah.
And then jumping forward again, or back, or where, I don't know where we are now, but you're on this rower and you've just broken a world record. So how long have you got to serve now, and what are you thinking in your head now? Are you thinking this is a realistic opportunity that, I'm going to get into sport, I'm going to get into Rome when I get out of here?
So,
because you've got a life sentence.
I've got 2.
Yeah, so you've got two life sentences. So how are you even thinking that you might get out?
So when I got arrested the second time, because I think it's important, because if you realise, like, the steps. So when I got arrested the second time, like, the whole game completely changed from the first time. So I get arrested. I remember it vividly. I was at Wharfrow Police Station. I'm sitting in the police interviews, incommunicado at the beginning. I wasn't allowed to ring anyone up, no one phone call and stuff. They were raiding people's houses because I come back from Spain, so they didn't know where I was living. They didn't know anything about me, really, other than my mum's address. So when this 3-4 days was over of these interviews, when they went to transfer me in the morning, normally what would happen is you get arrested and then, like, group 4 or someone would take you to court. And then I'm banging on the door in the morning saying I want a shower because I've been in this cell for, like, 3 days. And then the police officer from the robbery squad opens up the door and he's saying, we'll take you to court in a bit. Don't worry, you're going to have time to have a shower. And I think it's a bit weird that they're taking me to court because normally it's like normal group 4 people. Anyway, he opens up the cell door a little bit later, lets me go and have a shower, puts me back in the cell. Then they all come and get me. And then suddenly all these plainclothes policemen are there. And I'm like, it's a bit weird. And then I heard this like industrial fan. And I thought it was like the air conditioning unit in the police station. And all the custody police officers that like normally just dealing with criminals coming through the custody area, they're just all like just staring at me, and I'm sitting on this chair and I'm handcuffed up, all these like plainclothes police officers, and then they said, right, get ready to move the prisoner, and then I get handcuffed to this copper and he walks me out, and then there's just like this van in the courtyard of the police station, and it was like a bomb-proof van, and I've looked up and there was a helicopter above the police station, and I said to the copper, like, this is a bit overkill, and there's armed police walking around with machine guns. And then I didn't realise at the time, Darren, but the police basically made an application to the MOJ to make me a double category A level 3 prisoner, which meant that I had to be transported with armed police because they thought I was a high escape risk. They take me to
like a terrorist,
basically, yeah. Well, and this is how it all went on. And I realised how much trouble I was on. So I go to Wharf Road Police Station. I knew I wasn't going to get bail. To the court. And then they took me from the court to Belmarsh. And then when I'm in Belmarsh, I'm going through the custody area. I'm being difficult again. Where do you live? No fixed abode.
You're still like thick skin, man.
Yeah, straight back on it again.
You're still being a pain in the arse, even though you're in that. You've not gone fucking hell.
Because you go back into the setting again, the default setting.
Of course, yeah.
So he put me in the holding cell, and then there's something called a PO, a principal officer, and he come to the door and he said, "Look, Mcavoy, you're going on the HSU." And at the beginning, I thought it was like a hospital wing. Anyway, I just said, "All right, yeah." And then he went away and come back an hour or so later, and there was all prison officers there. They handcuffed me, put me on a little like van milk float thing, drove me through Belmarsh prison, and then they put me on this HSU, which is a high security unit, which I didn't know at the time, the abbreviation. And it's a prison within a prison. So I go on there, and when I was on there, Sheikh Abu Hamza was on there fighting extradition to the US for terrorism, and then the 21/7 suicide bombers, the ones that tried to blow up the tube.
Yeah, fucking
And I
hell.
thought, oh wow, like I'm in a world of shit here. Like I realised how bad this situation is. Like I knew it was bad, but now I really know how bad it is.
Yeah.
And when you're in there, just because sometimes people don't understand. So those people, like those guys were in there, they were a threat to national security. I was going on there because they thought someone would try to break me out of prison. And they basically have to make escape absolutely impossible. And then I was on that unit for 2.5 years, waiting to go to court. And then I went to Woolwich Crown Court. And then, I got 2 life sentences with a minimum tariff of 5 years. So again, it's a bit confusing for people, right? So the judge gave me something, it was called a discretionary life sentence. So in Britain, if you murder someone, you get life. And then it's the minimum tariff. But judges used to have a discretion with also giving out this life sentence. It's now been abolished, it doesn't exist anymore. I was unlucky that my offence happened before the law had changed. So I was like, they could retrospectively.
Well, yeah, we got a friend that went for something called an IPP.
IPP, yeah. So
same thing.
They abolished my sentence, discretionary life sentence. The European Court of Human Rights said it was unlawful, and then they created the IPP off the back of it. So my sentence come in before the law had changed.
Right.
So I got these 2 life sentences with a minimum tariff of 5 years, which meant absolutely nothing. Because they can set the tariff at a year. Doesn't mean you're getting out in a year. So I knew it was just a number.
But what happens in what changes in 5 years?
Yeah, well, the problem is not much, because I went back to that unit that night. I'd already served 2.5 years. I'm maximum security in a double category A. They then
You've already served 2.5 years because you haven't, because you're on remand and you haven't been to trial yet. 2.5 years till trial.
2.5 years.
God.
And then they take me when I get sentenced. That counts. But I'm maximum security, so I'm double category A. So the chances of me progressing through the system to get parole at 5 years is just 0. Like it's never going to happen.
Yeah, you're not even accessing anybody
nothing.
to reform.
You're still on remand, like pleading your innocence to a degree. And then they transferred me to a place in Yorkshire called Full Sutton, which was a maximum security prison. And then again, this is what they do. They got me there, and the minute they got me through reception, they said, "We're downgrading you." And then they took me from double category A to a category A prison and put me there. So now they're progressing me right through the wings. So they've got me up there with armed police. Once I've got there, they then categorised me instantly, because now I'm in a maximum security prison.
Right.
But when you're in the maximum security prisons in the UK, you can kind of get lost, right? And then you're in this world of like, it's like laws of the jungle. Like you can go in there, even if you try to keep your head down, trouble will come to you eventually. And I knew that being in there, like you have to be so on it and cautious and stuff. But during that process, like there was no element of me wanting to change, because in my head I kept thinking, and my plan was, the first opportunity I get to get out of it, I'm taking it. And I was just going to abscond, get out, go abroad, carry on committing crime. And it was the death of my mate when he died on the 40th of November in 2009. That was the catalyst for me wanting something else for my life.
Was you going to, what do you mean, break out?
Yeah, so when I was in there, like I had no intentions, like, because my mindset was, I knew I was always going to keep committing crime. But then I knew if I ever got out of prison and I got out on that life sentence, I'd be in the community, and the likelihood is they'd just recall me and put me back in prison. Yeah. So my mindset was like, well, I'm not just going to stay in the UK. So if I would have got moved to an open prison, I would have just absconded and gone abroad. Because I knew by me living here, I've just spent my whole life yo-yoing in and out of prison. Because at that point, Darren, I didn't want to change. That my life, my identity was wrapped up in what I did.
So there must have been like a lot of what you're talking about as triggered memories for me. I was on the rocky road when I was younger, and I got at one point got charged with Section 18. So I was looking at like 9 years, and it's a violent GBH of intent is what I got nicked with. And I remember going from the holding to the court. You know what you're saying in the back of that van. And my moment of reform, it didn't take me much. I went from that to that. And when I got in the back of that van and they put you in a little cage, the other people in the back of that van was going, turn the radio up, mate. Turn it. Like, they didn't give a shit that they were there. And I thought, I don't belong here. That was literally my moment of reform. I hadn't gone to trial yet or anything. Thank God it was self-defense and I got acquitted. But that was my moment. I knew that life wasn't for me. So there must have been a point for you that all of a sudden you realise, like you said, you sent a letter to Billy, but before that, what was that moment that you went, I'm not one of these. There's more to me than this. This isn't my life.
Yeah, like when I was in there, I used to have a mantra. I used to repeat to myself every day, these people have kidnapped me. This is not my life. I used to say it to myself every day when I was in prison. And I stayed...
But that's still a rebellion against
it,
right?
It is. And I deliberately, consciously stay connected to the real world as much as I could. Like I would read newspapers, listen to the radio. I wouldn't allow prison to become my reality. I tried to remove myself by reading and stuff like that. But... It was the death of my friend was the moment. That was it. Like before that, and it was such like the circumstances of that, and when he died, because of like the extreme nature of how I found out about it. In regards of, I found out on the phone that my friend had died, and because he was committing a crime in the Netherlands with 3 other people from the UK from Liverpool, and when they were getting away after committing this robbery, the car flipped on the motorway because the tyre blew out. And it made news at 10. So the following evening, after I found out my mates died, it was the first time I could remember as an adult I cried. I genuinely, I'm not a big crier. Like I can count probably on one hand the amount of times I can remember actually crying. But when I found out when he died, and I got really upset. And then the following night, to watch the last moments of your friend's life on news at 10.
So you saw the car flip?
I saw just before that when they were actually committing the robbery, and they put CCTV imagery up.
My God.
And there was a shot of someone running up to the camera with a can of spray paint, and it froze, and I could see through the balaclava. It was my friend's life. Like the chances of that stuff all coinciding in the way that you would see or hear about someone that you deeply loved and cared about. And he meant the world to me. Like I've never had a relationship with another human being even remotely close to this bond I had with this kid. Like even now, like it was
your brother.
He was, and I've never remotely got close to feeling like that about someone before, or even since.
It's making me feel emotional because I had very similar with Darren's brother. Darren's brother died in a car crash, and we were brothers, you know. And I found out on the phone the same way. I never saw any footage or anything. So I'm sorry you went through that, because I can really relate to the impact that your closest human being taken away. So I can see why that would have been the reforming point to sort of, you know, change the narrative. Like I suppose the whole concept of being a criminal just fell down.
Yeah, mate. And even the next morning, like when he died, And it's funny what you've said about the radio and stuff. Like when he died, I remember the next morning I come out for breakfast, and we used to have a communal eating area, and you'd be sitting there with all these other people that were going off to work that morning. You'd sit there eating breakfast. And I just remember listening to these kids talking about stabbing people, and when they got out of prison, they were going to do this and that. And I thought, I can't be around these people no more. I have to get away from them. But when you're in that environment, you haven't got the freedom to get up and walk away.
No.
I had to create something that give me that freedom. And I was very fortunate that having an ability, having the opportunity to get on that rowing machine, and then having that prison officer that changed my life. Like that prison officer, Darren Davies, changed my life. He saved my life.
Is he the one that give you all the records and that?
Yeah.
Is that him?
And I'm still friends with him today. Like he's been part of my life ever since. And he used to come in, Darren, on his days off work and sit with me when I used to try to break these records, but no one was paying him. There was no accolades. There was no sponsorship. And even other prison officers like used to look at him and think, what is he doing? Like, what is he doing? And when I got moved to other prisons, he would write me letters and send them to the prison gym. And then the prison gym officers would read them before they gave them to me. And I remember there was one prison officer when I got moved to an open prison, and he said, I can't understand why this man is so obsessed with you. Like, why he's
what a bloke. Like, to be able to drop any perception of judgment on you and go, I see something in this kid and I believe in him. Like, my equivalent of that was my barrister. When I met my barrister, he believed in me to be something different, and that's what Darren did. He looked at you and said, you can be something different. And the importance for me of meeting that person that believed that I could be different was massive. And I had big influences in my life, but to have that person believe in me outside of boxing, like you believing in you outside of being a criminal, was so important. And Darren was that. Like hats off to him, because I think he's probably been
even outside of rowing, I think it's because it was you. Do you know you
just
were
believing
the person
in
who
you.
believed in you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's huge.
And when he went to the governor of the prison, his name was called Gareth Sands, the number one governor, and that Gareth was a very religious man.
Yeah.
And Darren went to him, and when Darren asked and said, look, like obviously you can imagine, right? No one's ever done it. Like a prisoner sitting in a prison and allowing this guy to start trying to break these records on indoor rowing machine. It was just unheard of. And there was a lot of trust put in me, not letting them down, because it could quite easily backfire on them. Like I could have done something stupid with this opportunity and tried to break out, right?
Yeah.
And Darren went, I think if you give this man this opportunity to try to break these records in this prison setting, I think it would change his life. And he said, he can do it. And he allowed me the opportunity to do it.
What you owe to that man for believing in you.
It was the first, it goes back to role modelling, right? Again, like when I spent all that time with him, and he believed in me, and he encouraged me, and it was the first time I'd ever had that sort of role model in my life. There was no vested interest. Like he didn't.
No hidden agenda.
No, nothing.
No hidden agenda.
Nothing.
That's what I'm getting at.
Nothing.
Like it's unconditional. There's nothing that it's just love.
Well, I wrote a book, right, and I had a ghostwriter. And the ghostwriter, I'm sitting with him and he's writing it all out. And then he said, would it be possible to meet Darren and other people who have been part of this journey? So I said, yeah. So I introduced him to Darren. And the first question to Darren was like, why did you do it? Like he couldn't understand why someone would do what he did. Because again, you have to remember, like we're in prison. Like he's a prison officer. He's coming back to work on his day off to sit with me, to help me. And he used to come in and bring me in books. He started opening up my whole world to sport. Like he opened up. And when I started reading these books on athletes, like I was never exposed to these groups of people as a kid or as a young man. I had no interest in it whatsoever. Talk about anything about Gambino crime family in New York or anything about criminality. I'm sitting there, I'm reading it, I'm studying it.
But he changed your subject matter.
Yeah. And I'm starting, when I was reading these books with these athletes, I'm like, fucking hell, like I am exactly the same, but I was never exposed to this group of people before, like the drive, the will to win, the suffering, the pain, the sacrifice, all these things that I applied in something so toxic that was destroying me. The minute it comes back to what you said earlier, the minute I flipped it, and then I put it in, channeled it in something positive, they were massive attributes to my life.
And what's amazing, sort of coming to the present now, what's amazing is you realise what Darren did for you, and you're now doing your very best to do that for others. Like you're showing belief in people that were just like you. you're going into the prison systems and you're helping young people. Am I right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. And I say this all the time, but for me, it is an obligation. Like, it is a
Yeah.
moral duty for
Yeah,
me
yeah,
to
yeah.
reach back and help other people and show them that in life,
Not
it doesn't-
judge them.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter how far down the wrong road you've gone, you can always put it back, and
Yeah.
you can achieve something with your life.
That bollocks about lepers don't change their spots. What a load of bollocks.
It
And
is.
anyone that says that just don't have the courage to change. Like, you can change. You're not doomed to what you are. You can change if you want it. It's not easy, but
Yeah, exactly. It isn't easy. And I think sometimes you have to, like, I did a project recently where I took a group of inner city young kids out to the mountain to take part in this trail running race. And we trained them up for like 8 months. And we went through this incredible journey together. And I kept saying to them, every decision you make will move you closer to your goal or further away from it. If you want something in life and you really want it, you will find a way. You will find a way. It's persistence. But it is also hard. And I do think sometimes people just want the quick fix. They want the end result, and they don't realise the process and how long it takes and the patience to get to that point.
have you done?
We've had so many conversations about that.
Yeah.
So many, because I mean, this could go off in a whole different direction, but I am fearful of that. I'd love to learn Spanish. I'd love to do my private pilot license. I'd love to learn how to play the guitar. But through boxing, I understand there's such a long process, and I'm scared of it. I'm almost put off by it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's funny that we've had that conversation.
Did you have, obviously you had books and stuff, but have you had therapy? Have you had like talking therapy and stuff to sort of try and understand different things and like transform who you are?
No, I've never had therapy, but I'm very aware of the way I am. I think I've got a great awareness of my identity and the way I've grown as a person.
Do you catch yourself? So I'm talking about
Yeah,
identity.
definitely.
Like, let's say, for example, it's very hard for me to not talk to somebody from my younger years, to not talk about those years and glorify it and romanticize it. Do you catch yourself doing that?
It's not so much that. It's more like I would catch myself, because obviously day-to-day life, things happen in life, right? And it can be frustrating, right? You get a parking ticket, stuff like that, right? Like, little things.
Yeah.
And then it's sometimes instantly, like, your instinct will be of annoyance, but then you have to pull yourself back and go, there's far worse things in life. There's people in the world that are in a far worse situation than me getting a parking ticket, and reframing things. And I catch myself, so I wouldn't, and again, sometimes when you have to work with other humans, it can be quite frustrating, right?
Yeah.
But I'd never give someone that element of control to dictate my mood.
We had a guest on called Jeff Thompson, and he's an author, but he was a bouncer, and he talks about your autonomy and somebody having the power to take your autonomy away.
You're not going to believe this, what you're going to say.
Go on.
Have you ever read my book?
No, I haven't.
His book, The Formula, I read that in prison.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, wow.
But that book, genuinely, because I read The Secret,
Yeah.
and it's about the laws of attraction.
Yeah.
I read his book, The Formula, and it had a massive impact over my life.
Really?
Because it's, again, about energy exchange, being around positive people, looking after the body, fueling it.
Yeah,
Have you ever
yeah,
spoke
yeah.
to Jeff?
I haven't, no.
Oh, we'll have to.
You got to meet him.
What a coincidence that is that you brought that up.
Yeah.
You'd have to listen to that. When
Give
we
me
get out,
goosebumps.
it's incredible.
Honestly, like the universe is funny, right? Because I was thinking about it the other day that all the guests we've had on, like, there's such a thread going through each.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's just because they're
No,
people
but that's
we
the
met.
first time as well that it's obviously there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
You
it's
know what I
massive.
mean? Yeah.
I read his book, and I promise you, please, because now I've said it, people might go, oh, he's making this
No,
up.
not at all.
Read
I can tell
my
that's genuine.
autobiography. Read my autobiography. Darren bought in his book, The Formula, and gave it to me in my prison cell. And I read it because I read The Secret, which is a longer form of it.
Yeah.
And Darren said, read this. It's a bite-sized book. I passed that book round the prison, and everyone was reading it that I was connected
Yeah,
to.
It
yeah.
might even be he brought a load
Yeah,
down,
yeah,
didn't he?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a tiny little book.
Yeah.
Every time I do any podcast or anything, I
That's
always say
nuts.
The Formula.
Wow.
That is nuts.
You should tell him today. You should
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
him.
I'm
gonna,
I've
yeah,
got
I'm
telling
gonna.
me, yeah.
So, John, you did you've broken some records in that. How long did you serve then, and what date was you released?
So, mate, I ended up breaking 3 world records and 8 British records.
Fuck you.
And then I thought,
hang on a minute. So you're in prison, eating prison food, like you.
I was very strict on my food though. Like I used to. Let me
Yeah,
tell
but you're not getting given like supplements.
No,
and
you're
shit.
not. But like so you get a prison canteen every week. Do you know, you
Yeah.
do the shops? You get
Right.
you get 20 quid of your earnings because
Yeah.
at this time I was a gym orderly. So I used to buy like about 7 kilo of porridge,
Yeah.
peanut butter, and I had to bribe the guys on the hot plate for extra fruit.
Wow.
So I'd give them like packs of tobacco, and they would like hold me back 5 apples or 4 bananas each day. So I'd have like apples. I started to understand about sports nutrition because I was reading the books in the library.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realise before like how important that stuff was.
So you're trying to fuel yourself.
I'm trying to as best as I could.
Yeah.
So I set 3 world records and 8 British records. And do you know what was nice as well when I was in there? It was a weird situation because like you become a bit of a champion for the prisoners.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I come on the
imagine.
wing after breaking the world record for the longest distance rode in 24 hours, they let me stay down the gym with prison officers and I rode 24 hours straight. I rode 168 miles in that time.
Unbelievable.
And when I come on the wing the next day, everyone was banging the cell doors.
Because
It was
amazing.
amazing.
It
It
was
was amazing because you're like, you was just this guy that was with them, that was competing against people outside of prison.
You're sort of transforming their experience.
Well,
in a way.
even now, every now and again, I'll get someone that I was in prison with years ago and they message me on Instagram or something and they say, I always
that
remember
time.
you when
Yeah,
you
yeah.
come on the wing. So I did all this stuff, Darren. I thought it was a shoo-in, right? I genuinely did. I knew I changed. I knew I'd never commit a crime in my life again. I was absolutely obsessed with being an athlete.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to do.
Who was the person? So you've read about these people. Who was the person you were mainly focused on?
It was so because I did everything I'd done on a rowing machine, my next step was I wanted to become like a rower on the water.
Yeah.
And I was going to do it as a lightweight man. So it's kind of like boxing. You have weight classes.
Yeah,
75 kilo, you're lightweight. Anything above your heavyweight. There's only 2
So
weight
who
classes.
was the governor? Who was
It
you
would have
looking
been
at?
James Cracknell.
Right,
It would have
right.
been James Cracknell.
Yeah.
I read his autobiographies and he'd done all these incredible
Yeah.
events like running across the Atlantic and
So
stuff.
you're like, I'm gonna. Go
He
against
was the
him.
man, yeah. Even though he's a lot bigger than me, but
Yeah.
he was my inspiration in that
Yeah.
moment of time of being in prison. So I went on my first parole hearing in 2011, set all these world records. I had to have like these psychology tests where like people, professors and stuff come in and they make sure you haven't got psychopathy, or they had to write all these reports.
Why did they have to do that?
Because they just need to make sure you've not got any like mental health issues. So when you're going through your parole, you actually like they have all the full facts in front of them. You
Right.
haven't got all these you ain't got psychological conditions.
Yeah.
So I went through all this, and then I sit my first oral hearing, and the judge that was sitting across from me, he was basically asking me all these questions. You had a lay person, you had someone from the probation office and stuff, and they were all asking me these questions. And he said, like, what are you going to do when you come out of prison? And when I answered this question, even now, I was so driven and so determined that I was going to make it become a reality. I said, I'm going to become a professional athlete. And he looked at me and he lifted I remember forgetting, he like lifted the glasses to the bridge of his nose and he said, in all my years of sitting these oral hearings, I've never had a prisoner sit in front of me saying that they're going to be a professional athlete. And then when they were cross-examining me after this, they were kind of trying to pull holes in it.
But you've beaten
I've done
world
what I've
records.
done, but what they were kind of making, and to a degree I do get it, and I do get it. And when I wrote my book, I actually sent him a copy to say I did genuinely change.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
pull the wool over your eyes. But what he was concerned about, I had no plan B. But in my head, I didn't need a plan B. But in his head, he needed to make sure there was something else.
He didn't realise who he was talking to.
No,
though,
he
did
didn't. He didn't. So what he did, they didn't direct my release. They said, you're going to get moved to an open prison. And then when I was at the open prison, I was able to go out and work every day in the gym. It's the first time I'd ever had a normal job, like I had a boss. Didn't have any of this stuff. This was like 2012. And got my PT level 3 gym qualification as I was there. And then I went on my final hearing just before the Olympic Games in 2012. And then they released me. I got out.
After how long?
After serving 8.5 years.
Right.
And then I got out, and the first thing I went and done was join a high performance rowing club in London, Putney. It was called the London Rowing Club, and it was a high performance centre for lightweight men. So it was the feeder system into the GB national rowing team.
Right. Yeah.
And I remember
How did you know about that? Did you read about it?
because when I was working out at the open prison, at Fitness First, there was a library. So I had a library card. So when I had lunch, I'd go up to the library and I was able to use like Google and stuff, because
Right,
obviously
right.
I didn't have access to the internet in prison. So this is a whole new world to me,
Yeah.
right? So
Google would have been like a new
there's
thing,
nothing.
really.
There was no iPhones.
No.
When I come out at the beginning, I thought everything was touchscreen. So I was going up to everything, touching it, not
Going up to
realising it was only
Windows.
like iPhones and stuff. And so I had an awareness of this rowing team, this club. I went down there, got released on the Friday, went down there on a Saturday morning. They didn't take any novice rowers.
So they must have known all about it.
No, they didn't. I didn't tell them. So when I went there, Darren, I sent emails to the coach at the club. He was a guy called Phil Bourguignon. Now, Phil was Australian, and he used to coach the women's quad to World Championship level in Australia, and then come over to London and had the job there as a high performance coach. So I sent him emails, and I basically said, I live up in, because at this time I was in this open prison in a place called Sudbury, so just outside Derby. And I said, look, I live in London, but I'm up here at the moment. Would it be possible?
I'm on holiday at the moment.
Yeah, but I didn't go into any details. I just said, I'm working away, I'm a personal trainer. Would I be able to come down? And he replied back and he said, look, we don't take any novice rowers because it was a high performance club. He said, but what are your scores? In rowing, you have a 2K and a 5K. Yeah. They're the standards. And that's how you base people's physiology, based on their fitness. Yeah. So I submitted them. And anyway, he was kind of like, come down.
What was your 2K and 5K?
So when I was, at that point? When I was 72 kilo, my 2K was 6 minutes and 18 seconds. And my 5K was 16:28. For 5K?
The time itself doesn't mean much to me. I don't know rowing times, but doing 5K on a rower, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, we did short bursts. So this is how I was saying to you how awful rowing is. Yeah. So after hill sprints at the gym, I'm a pro, we'd come back to the gym and Tony would make us do 1 3-minute row.
Right.
1 3 minutes, blast the life out of it.
Get as far as you can.
I did 936 minutes and 3 minutes.
That's good.
Battered me.
That's good, mate.
That's after hill sprints as well.
That's good.
But like want to be sick just after 3 minutes, let alone
it's hard,
man.
It is hard. Like of all the sport I've ever done, the lactate build-up you get in rowing is on another planet because it just builds through the whole body.
Yeah.
So look,
it's doing me even thinking about it.
The metallic taste in your mouth that you start getting, the burning.
So
I went down on the Saturday morning, and basically he wanted me to do a 2K test in front of him. Yeah. Because like most sport, people overbig themselves up.
Of course, we get them down here,
and they get exposed. You chuck them in a ring, and then you realise you're not.
Do around the shadow box, and you can see it all.
And I did this 2K test in front of him. And he said, "Okay." He went, "We give you a chance." And then he was amazing with me. He really was. Because I was like literally non-rower, like rode the rowing machine, but then I was non-rower, and they put me out in a special boat that stabled itself because I was on the tideway down near Putney. And then he kind of started building me into the squad, and then and the squad was incredible with me. No one knew anything about me, right?
Wow.
And I always remember this was one thing I always used to think about when I got out. It was like I knew I wanted my life to go down a different road. But obviously, when you're living in that world, your interactions with people and stuff is very different, right? And my whole thing was about respect. And if people didn't show me respect, how I would respond to that. And I can remember when I first joined the club and I did the test, one of the other coaches said, do you want to come out on the tideway and the coaching launch while I coach some crews, just so you can get a bit of awareness how, like, because there's like a system that goes in place on the tideway. So you row on certain sides when the tide's going in, you have to change when the tide's going out, and you have to know how to navigate in a rowing boat on the Thames. And I remember being in this boat with him, and I hope he's listening. His name was called Brian Ullett. He was one of the rowing coaches down there. And I remember as we were going in this like little metal boat next to these rowers, he's coaching the squad. Yeah. And then one of the rowers at the stroke seat, so the one at the front, is saying something to the guy behind him. So he stopped them from rowing. And he went to him, I'm the fucking coach. I tell them what to do. You keep your fucking mouth shut. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, if he ever spoke to me like that, how I would respond to it. Because, like, no one's ever spoke to me like that before. But that was a concern of mine when I got out. Because I wouldn't let someone talk to me like that. So then when I was in that situation at that moment, I was like, well, my life is going to be very different now. But me and him
But it depends how much you want something,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to be fair, me and him did hit it off. And he was amazing with me, like a coach. But
because you didn't need to be spoken to
no,
like that.
No, I listened. Like, when they told me to do anything, I was very coachable. Like, they said, do this, I'd do it to the letter. And then when I joined this squad, and there was loads of Olympic champions there, like, mate, for me, it was a dream come true at the time. Like, I remember on a Wednesday night in this room, you've got 20 rowers on indoor rowing machines, Olympic champions. I'm sandwiched in between a woman that won a gold, a guy that won a silver at London 2012.
Unbelievable.
And I'm fucking just smacking it with them, right? Yeah. And I felt so amazing. Yeah. And as I was in this world, my whole social circle completely changed. People knew me as John. And then I started finding out, people found out about my past.
What did they know you as before?
They didn't know anything.
Right.
Because I didn't tell anyone about the records, because I knew if I told them, the first thing that come up on Google search was the Sun newspaper, the Daily Mail.
Right, yeah, so,
so I knew if I told anyone, but rowers being rowers, like people twig. Like there was a guy called James Lindsay Flynn, and he went to the World Championships, and one night he was in the erg room and he was watching me on the ergo, and he come up to me and said, "There's no way you've just started rowing." Like he went, "There's no way." He went, like, "There's no way you're pushing that." And I said, "No, like, I've done a bit of stuff in the gym on the row machine." He said, "There's no way. There's no way."
Yeah.
And then, as I said, when
when you know.
Yeah, you know.
As a
You
boxer,
see something.
I'll have someone walk in the gym and go, "Oh, you know, I've done a couple of rounds of sparring," and you just know, like, don't pull the wool over my eyes. You know,
it's the intensity as well, right? You see someone.
You
and
just see.
Joe, I'll mention his name, Vince Curry.
Yeah,
I remember him coming down
yeah.
once, a South African guy, and straight away I went, "You've done a bit of boxing before, haven't you?"
Yeah.
He was very modest and nice, but you know, I found out I think he won some national titles in
Yeah,
South Africa.
South Africa, like,
And then sort of as I found out, people started to find out about
so
my
he
backstory.
clocked you.
He clocked me physicality wise. He knew that I wasn't just some guy that did a bit of running in the gym. And then I found out that like someone did find out about my past. Someone did Google, and I thought, do you know what? I have to take ownership of this. It's not justification. I don't justify anything I've ever done. I take full responsibility for my actions. And I wrote this blog about the journey that I've been on in life and where I was at that moment in time. And I shared it, and it went viral within rowing.
Really?
It really, really did. And I would say from that blog, because a lot of people that work within rowing, like worked in the media, and it kind of just went from one thing to the other.
It was like you coming clean to the people.
Yeah,
in a
and
way.
mate, do you know what? It was great for them as well, because the amount of people that said, if they would have known about my past and I would have joined, the preconceptions they would have had about someone like me, it challenged them. And it really did challenge them. And there was even a lady there, Chantel Feeney, her name is. She worked at the Met Police. And I remember her telling me she went into work. So because she was a serving Met Police officer, she had to tell them.
Yeah.
I was going around their house and having dinner with at the time, her boyfriend, now her husband, Stephen, because Stephen rode in the squad.
Yeah.
So obviously she has to go and report that at work. Because she knows, but
she's been mixing with you.
She stood by me incredibly. Even to a point at work, they went, "That could be a proper issue. You're leaving yourself exposed." And she said, "I believe that man's changed and turned his life around."
Yeah.
She said, "So if I have to resign, I'll resign."
Yeah, really.
And she did, man. And honestly, she has been an amazing advocate.
It's
of mine.
incredible, like your life, like up until this stage, because there's been you've met some real important, positive people in your life, haven't you?
But like you said about reading The Secret, like that. And the formula, like that sort of outlook, that like be positive and positive comes, sort of must have been a part of that. Do you know what I mean? But opening yourself up to positive people, positive things. I'm not saying that you you can't read a book and it all works out. You've obviously done the work, but
also letting your guard down and trusting people a little bit and saying, right, okay,
It was hard though, mate.
Yeah, I can
found it
imagine
really
from the life that you
I found it really, honestly, and I really struggled. Like when I first got out of prison, I remember like adjusting, like the people that I was friends with years ago, like the loyalty, and I found it really difficult, especially like I found when I went into like the more media world, and how transactional and superficial the relationships were with people. And you don't build up a really strong, tight-knit group of loyalty with people. Everything's very transactional. It's like the moment. And I found that quite challenging at the beginning. It was things I had to adjust to because of the people that I'd grown up with as a kid, like that loyalty I had towards me and the love and stuff. And then going into this whole new world where like people were slagging each other off behind the backs and stuff. And I couldn't understand, why'd you talk to them then? If you don't like them, why are you wasting your energy talking about their lives and stuff?
Because the world you come from is almost, in some ways, much straighter. It's like if you don't
if you
like
didn't like someone, you didn't like him. That was it. You wouldn't be friends with them or interact with them and then not have that. And that was.
But in the corporate world, you get people sort of, they work amongst each other and don't really like each other. So it's a different. Yeah.
So how did the rowing come to an end, and what followed the rowing?
So when the rowing come to an end, that was after 6 months of really going at it.
At this rowing club.
Like so physicality wise, like physiology, it wasn't an issue. It wasn't an issue. Like I could have done it, but it was the technical element of it. It was like coming in at 29, nearly being 30. you're going up, you're trying to compete against people that have rowed since they were like 16 years old.
Right,
Mate, it's one of the most technical sports. It doesn't look like it is.
Same as boxing. Exactly
exactly
the same,
right?
Yeah.
It's like coming out of prison.
Someone turns up at 29, you go, you're too old, mate.
Yeah, exactly. It's any elite sport,
It's not just
right?
about being
And like
fit.
you said there, it don't look it.
No.
You might see, but I could do that. It's only
To
throw a
fight.
few punches.
Just to
But
fight.
same with rowing a boat. You just wouldn't know, would you?
No.
Until you're there, and
Yeah,
then you
until you're
realise
there,
like
The intricacies of the sport.
the foot and like the defence. Like I'll be sitting there straight coming on it, and you'll just be knocking my head off.
Yeah.
But people don't appreciate it, and I didn't appreciate it, and I thought my physicality would have been able to overcome my shortcomings technically, but it couldn't. Like, and I'd imagine you put me in a boxing ring with people, like physically, I could have probably been there, but I'd have got the shit knocked out of me. Like, I wouldn't have been able to fight them.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly the same. And with a sport like Ironman, it's not very technical. It's basically like physiology. Like you can train your body to run fast. You can ride a bike fast.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to learn bike skills, like in regard, but the skills. If you do a flat Ironman
The endurance of it is
it's the engine.
It's the priority.
It's the engine.
Yeah,
and anything endurance, the longer it goes, the better I was. So like the shorter stuff, I was okay, but the longer it went on, because then the psychology comes in.
Yeah, that heart, that courage as well.
It changes the whole dynamics. It would change, and then suddenly there is a little bit of a better swimmer than you, because the race is like, you have to swim 3.8k in the swim. Yeah, someone could be a better swimmer than me and put 15 minutes into me, but I've still got 8 hours to catch you up on the bike and then on the run. And most of the time, I would be able to catch them up. Not all the time, but...
So being able to like break through pain, like being able to numb yourself from the pain, like and actually not numbing yourself, you're getting something from it, like it's serving you. Going through pain is serving you in some way. Do you think that that's healthy? Do you think that's a healthy thing to be going through, actually being able to break through pain? First of all.
It's a good question. Do I think it's healthy? I think, what we spoke about before, sometimes you need saving from yourself. I think as I've got older, I've started to realise that more. Like you do have to protect your body more. Like I want to function, for instance, if I get to 65, 70 years old, and I want my body to relatively be strong, where years ago, I would have torn a muscle off my body and I would not have stopped.
Yeah. But it's funny, you've taken what I've said as in a physical way, but I actually mean it in an emotional way. Like, do you think it's healthy that somebody can push themselves past pain, ignore all their instincts? All their instincts are saying stop, but emotionally you're allowing yourself to go, like, ignore that.
I had it the other day. It's mad, and I think it's embedded in us, in certain people. Like I'm not brainy, I'm not smart, but if you give me 1 million bricks to move from there to there, I'll try and do it as quicker than anybody. And the other week in Dublin, they said, I ended up getting roped into doing this 10k run. Well, I haven't run 10k for probably 16, 17 years because of my hips. I just didn't run. I was doing a lot of swimming. But as soon as that run started, it become not about finishing it become about finishing first. Like I made this a race. I don't know if I was trying to race anyone else, but I had to do this quicker than anyone. And it's like a mad obsession. Physically, I was running through pain. My back was hurting, my hips were hurting, but there was no stopping me, no quitting me. And I don't know why or where this is still now at 41 years old, but I had to win.
So just sort of telling you where my question comes from. I was obsessed with winning. You know, winning defined whether I was worth it or not. Yeah, whether I was lovable, whether I was good. Yeah, winning. And the more work I've done on myself, the less I've needed to win. And the more winning kind of started to take a back seat. I can't box anymore. You can't get in the ring and not really need to win because you end up getting hurt. What's the point in doing it? So I wonder whether you feel like there is another chapter to this, which is like kind of not needing to push yourself hard.
Most definitely. And I think, like me, 29 to me now, in regards of, I'd say the competitiveness is always in me. Like even when I got sick, when I raced in August and I fell apart in the race and people were running past me, it was something I'd never experienced before. 300 people run past me. Yeah. Like, and it psychologically, it was something I've never really had to deal with. Like, and I'm in this race, and I felt absolutely awful. I was laughing, Because my instinct, the minute someone went past me, even though I was falling apart, was to go, and I couldn't go. I had nothing.
You had
to
accept
started laughing.
it.
I started laughing. I think as I've got older and I've realised, like, as a kid, I identified legacy was the acquisition of wealth, and then when I got older and I started doing sport, then it was about sport and accomplishments, and then as I've carried on developing and meeting different people, I realised about legacy is actually about lifting other people up and helping other people.
There's a great quote. There's a great quote by Customer. It's like, greatness is not a measure of how great you are. It's how great others come to be because of you.
100%.
That's exactly
what I've come to as a night. That project I did recently, the Alpine Run Project, taking those inner city kids that have never travelled outside the UK. One kid never got on a train. She was 18 years old, never been on a train in her life. And then we put them on this journey and we took them out to the Alps and they took part in this race. When they were running down that finishing line in Chamonix, I have never felt a sense of pride that I did that moment watching those kids race, and all the stuff I've done.
That's brilliant.
Man, honestly, it was like I can't even explain it, with the protectiveness I felt towards this group of kids, and this bond I developed with them over the 8 months, and how it made me feel to see them achieve something that was 8 months ago. They didn't even know these places existed. They've never been to the mountains. They've never used their bodies like they didn't run. And it's only using their bodies. And I think as I got older and I've got to this point and the interactions of other people, I would say how driven I was when I was younger to sort of make money and then to win things. It has evolved now, and it's about like making sure that I just provide opportunities for other young people or young people in general to show
inspiring
them,
others.
To show people what there is out there in life.
Sounds really cheesy, but inspiring others. I don't mean that in a sense like I'm inspirational. What I mean is you're allowing them to access inspiration. It's not it's what you're allowing them.
And they become inspirational to people in their communities and lift them up. And that to me, that is what legacy is. Like when I'm gone and I'm dead, and I said this to my mate when we were at that event in August with the kids, and I said, whatever happens, regardless, those kids for the rest of their lives will have this in their minds. This will be a memory for them.
Yeah.
And when we're dead or when we're really old men, everything we've achieved physically won't really mean anything, right? You have medals up and stuff. You go, oh, do you remember I did that? And it's cool, right? You look back and go, cool, look how strong I was when I was younger.
Yeah.
But those kids' lives are fundamentally going to change because they impacted with me.
Powerful.
And that's what life's about, right? That is what life is about, and that is purpose, and it gives you purpose.
You've had them role models, and those people help you, and now you've done the same with these, and it's just a domino effect.
It's like
and if this keeps happening, what a great group of people. What lives they're going to have.
It's like your purpose has turned from inward to outward.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Everything before was about the I. It was all about me.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, and I realised this, and I think that's why, like, I think a lot of people suffer for a lack of purpose and a lack of meaning. And when it isn't about you and it's about other people, and you've got purpose, I think that is a massive game changer for people in life, with gratitude and helping other people, and it makes you have a more fulfilled life. And I genuinely do believe that.
Reminds me of Muhammad Ali's poem, Me, We. Did you hear it?
Yeah, but it's the shortest poem or whatever.
We.
And also, just
look at what he'd done. You know what I mean? It was all about him from young, but he turned that into like, what difference can I make for others? Like, how can I make a change for other people?
Beyond
that's what
sport.
I mean, you've sort of covered a lot of what we wanted to go through anyway. So, what if you were to define your purpose? Like, what is your purpose?
My purpose is just making sure before I die, I have a positive impact over as many people's lives as I possibly can. And however I choose to do that, like, again, you can do it through book, you can do it through providing real world opportunities. Like I got years ago, like, it's great when you go into schools and talk to school children and then you leave, but then they're going back to those environments where they're from, right? And I get it, like, how difficult that is. But I wanted to start creating things, pipelines where, like, with what
put the seed. Yeah.
But then creating the vehicle to take and remove and give them the opportunities to see different things. And that comes to working with, like, different businesses, different corporations, opening up their doors, trying to leverage the relationships I've got with people to bring these kids in and let them see how big and beautiful that the world is and what opportunities there are out there for them.
Yeah.
So what is it you're doing now then, John?
So I've set up a project called the Alpine Run Project.
Right.
So that's to get 100,000 kids by 2027 out into nature running and being active. But it isn't just about that. It's about using the network that I've created to open up opportunities within businesses for kids to do work experience days. Like, for instance, like JD Sports now are opening up their doors for internships, apprenticeships for young people. It's just trying to create these.
You're doing the one thing that's going to lead to, and the one thing is go for a run out in nature, that is going to lead to the network that's already created.
Yes.
Yeah.
and create these opportunities for these young people and mentor them. And I've got an amazing team from Youth Beyond Borders that are helping me with this. So they've got youth workers, and we work with the young people. And again, it's just being part of their lives, because I noticed it with this group of kids. I would say 4 or 5 of the 12 are grown up in care. So they're grown up in the foster care system. And I saw it at the very beginning, like you could sense the trust was very difficult to build up in them. And I found at the beginning could be quite self-destructive or be destructive, because they were expecting you, the minute they were difficult, for you to just go, do you know what, I'm walking away from you. And then when we didn't do that, and we were consistent and we were persistent with them, the change they went through, because they knew they could rely on us, right? And we built that trust up with them. And the journey that they've gone on is just, honestly, man, we got a documentary coming out on the 14th of December.
Brilliant.
I'll send it to you. It's called From the Peaks. From the Streets to the Peaks.
Oh, brilliant.
That's quality. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I do a bit of trekking and stuff in mountains, and it was really important for me at that point of like transition, like coming from kind of turning the page, transition. And like when I very first went to the Pyrenees, a friend of mine, Gary Johnson, he was like, come and do a trek with me. So we went out, he's ex-military, and we went out and did this trek, the Path to Freedom, where the Jews escaped the Germans through France into Spain over the Pyrenees. And I wasn't even expecting anything. I was just expecting a bit of a physical challenge. And it just changed me. I saw nature, I saw adventure. And since then I've sort of travelled around the world doing those kind of things, those adventures. So what you're doing is taking them kids and allowing them to open their eyes to freedom. Like when you go in the mountains and you're just being you, and you haven't got anyone else's perception on you, it's freeing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
mate,
liberating.
definitely. And then, like, again, when you watch the film, you see the journey that they went through and the change in them. I have to be honest, even I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I knew it would be powerful, but I didn't realise how powerful it would be. Like, every person that was part of this journey with me, that like dropped in and out, like from the kick-off event on the 1st of March, when we brought all these young people together for the first time, none of them knew each other. So the other night we did a film premiere at the Everyman Cinema at King's Cross for the documentary. We had them up on stage. They run the event. They were talking. They were the MCs.
Amazing. Yeah.
There were people there like, I can't believe they had this group of kids that we met on the 1st of March, where they were introverted. They didn't have much self-confidence.
Where were you accessing these kids?
So we had an application process. So we put it out like next year in January. We're going live with the Alpine Run 2024. So we're going to go live with it. It'll all be online. Documentary comes out on the 14th of December. So probably by the middle to end of January, we go live. We're going to work with loads of community centres across the country, different schools, colleges. So we want to work with a big group of kids. So we want to work with 3,500 next year, and then have a core team of 100 who are the most engaged at the 3,500. And of that 100, 12 of them or 15 will come out to race at the UTMB, the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc in Chamonix next August.
And how far is that?
That for them, depending on their ages, but like their race is 8K with like 600 metres of elevation.
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah.
Wow. and yourself, competing wise, how are you getting on?
I had an absolute stinker of a racing season this year. I was just a mixture of being unlucky and a lot of learnings.
Yeah.
Being unlucky was I was in amazing bike shape. I was meant to do these big mountain races on my bike. Crashed my bike. I was just unlucky. I was coming off a mountain pass and I ate a little puddle of water and then come down quite hard. And then I was meant to then race 3 weeks later. I had a back spasm because of the bike crash. And then like that part of the season had finished then for me to keep racing my bike. And then I was transitioning across to do like a lot of ultra marathons on the trails in the mountains. And then I got sick with that virus that I keep talking about. And then got sick there, fell apart in that race, finished it, then raced again 4 weeks later. It was a 116k race in the south of France in Nice. Got to 84k and the wheels on the bus fell off. I started getting the virus symptoms back again. So the last race I did was 3 weeks ago in Sweden, and I just had to get around that. It was 65k to qualify for next year's race in Chamonix, which is like the World Series final. So I did it.
So, and you're a Nike athlete.
Nike athlete, yeah.
Nike athlete.
Yeah.
Have you still got strong goals? As
Yeah,
far as
yeah,
competing
yeah,
yourself? Like,
mate.
and what are they?
Mate, well, after what happened to me at that race where 300 people ran past me, literally, I was laughing. When it happened, I've never felt so ill, but when it happened, I was laughing because I've never experienced it. Like, there was a guy, I will never forget this to the day that I die, and I hope he's listening to this. He was a YouTuber, right? So at the beginning, I didn't know I was sick. I start off the front, right? I'm gone. And at 5K, I thought, I'm in a world of shit here. There's something wrong with me. My heart rate was through the roof. I'm getting little floating things in my eyes. And I felt, and then the energy system shut off at 10 mile, literally off. And I thought, fucking hell, I've still got 40K to go. And I still had like 2,000 meters of climbing to do. And then all these people that are like slower than me have like caught me up from like sort of 10 mile to like 30K. And this YouTuber guy, he's got this guy next to him with a GoPro. And obviously I'm in my own little world. I'm so fucked, like I'm gone, right? Yeah. And he's looked and double ticked. He went, "Is your name John?" And I was like, "Yeah." He went, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm going to beat you." Mate, I had to laugh, mate. And he went to me, "Just don't give up." I was like, "Mate, I won't going to give up."
Thank you.
Yeah. And that was like the highlight of my whole experience. This guy running past me, he was a YouTuber with a guy with a GoPro filming him. And then the way he stopped and double T, "I can't believe it, you're John, right?" And I said, "I'm going to beat you."
Sport is the vehicle.
But no, mate, like next
yourself.
year, trail, I've got some big trail running races that I want to do. That one in particular, the World Series final in Chamonix. I have to go back, mate.
Is it about winning, or is it beating your own times, records?
No,
how do you gauge it?
It's about me being the best that I can be on that day. And what it was, the amount of effort and training I put in, it wasn't a reflection of that.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back, mate. And if that reflection was I finished 100th, I finish 100th and I'm good. If it meant I finished 10th, I'm 10th. But I just need to go back and feel like I've got a true reflection of the work I put in and a representation of that work.
Right.
And mate, I just didn't even get remotely close to it, mate.
Yeah,
No, mate, it was
no contentment. You're not satisfied.
Yeah,
at all.
mate. It was like the thing is when you know this, like I wasn't doing it to get around. Like I didn't train 25, 30 hours a week just to get around. Yeah. And then the sacrifice you've made to do that 30 hours of training each week with all the other stuff I had going on in my life. You've sacrificed a lot for that moment, and then when you get there, and a guy, with all due respect, a YouTuber runs past you, like filming you and stuff, I'm like, I have to go back next year and do it again.
How old are you now?
I'm 40 now.
40. And what's the sort of, because every sport's kind of different in where your peak should be. What would be your peak age?
Do you know what? It's such an interesting one. Endurance sport, normally you tend to find the older you get, the better you get. I would say
to a point, obviously.
Yeah, like the average Ironman world champion is 37 years old.
Right.
So 37-year-old is the average age for an Ironman world champion. Marathon runners, like elite, they can still keep going to their like early 40s. Yeah. What it is, it's like anything. It's the body and the mind. The body starts to break down, and what it is, you can't do the workload you need to do to be that good because your body can't take the load. Yeah. So like an elite marathon runner will be hitting 100-mile running weeks. Yeah. And eventually the body just cannot recover to hit 100 miles a week. You just have to do 80 miles or 75 miles. And obviously then you know the top end performance is going to start to drop. So
and are there age categories? Is it like a...
there is. You
don't really think of...
No, you just... No, I always just think of that. It's the overall, right?
Yeah.
I can't... I think once you start focusing on the age categories, I think that's when you do start getting a bit older.
Yeah. But what does happen? Like, Darren's retired, I've stopped boxing. What does happen for you once you just... Like, there's going to come a point where you go, like, I can't compete with the people I want to compete with. You know, how do you see that happening? How do you like, is that
going to be your own times you look at they're dropping here,
I often say this, mostly when I ever do Nike events, but the day I stop is the day they put me in the ground. Like, for me, sport and activity when I started doing it, it was never about like me being an athlete. It meant something far more. The significance to my life and being fit and strong and healthy isn't about an athlete. It's beyond that. Yeah. So like, yes, of course I'll slow down, and of course my body won't be able to do it. But I will never, ever stop. I want to be a little 70-year-old man on a bike in a mountain, and like young kids are riding past me, going, "Look at that old man." But I will always keep doing what I do. But I think as my life develops, like obviously I'll start putting more time and channeling more effort into other parts of my life, like
coaching it and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just doing what I'm doing at the moment with this project and stuff, like that 100,000 kids. And then again, the way my brain is straight away, it's like, how do we get 1 million, or how? And just keep growing stuff, and other opportunities present themselves along your life, right? And listen, the way my life's played out, like sometimes I thought I'm going down one road, and then something comes in and it's took me down another, and I'm open-minded to that as well.
I always say that, like, you start a journey thinking you start at A and you're going to get to B, but it never ends up exactly like that. You end up learning something else or meeting someone else and going down a different path. But the important thing is that you start the journey.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And you're open-minded as well to opportunity when they present themselves. And I think that's important as well. And I think that's one quality I've always had, like, when an opportunity has presented itself, even sometimes I might not have had the skills.
Say yes, think later.
Yeah, and I'll figure it out on the job. I've always been like it.
Yeah, I can relate.
I don't know if you got any more questions, right? But I was going to jump to the last one, and it's. I mean, we've covered so much, but we call the podcast "Why Fight?" And yeah, you did touch on it a little bit there, but why fight? What is it that keeps you going now?
It's the
what are you fighting for?
Do you know what, mate? Right, I just tell you this last story before I go, and it because it sums up my philosophy on life. So a really dear friend of mine, David Smith, he's a para athlete, and he has had 7 tumours in the last 10 years, I think. So he's nearly died of cancer, right? And I went and visited him last week at the Neuro Hospital near the British Museum. And when I'm in there, thankfully he had the tumour removed, and he was going to get released 2 days later. And there was a guy next to him called Ronnie. I was listening as me and David were talking, and Ronnie was taking the last breaths of his life. And he died 2 days later after I left him, right? We are so lucky that we are human beings, and we have consciousness and awareness, and we're alive, right? Our lives are all going to end, and I just want to maximise every moment of my life. And I remember when I was in prison, and it was like I was locked in a tomb. But even when I was locked in that tomb, I still made the most of what I could do, and I still utilised my body and did everything I could with it. And we should all be so thankful that we're alive and we're breathing, because one day we will be like Ronnie. And when I was listening to that the other day and listening to him gasping for breath, talking to David, I thought that reminds me why it's so important to do the things in life that make you feel happy, feel complete, and go after whatever it is you want in life and follow your dreams, because one day it all ends for all of us. And that, I know I've probably gone a little bit deep at the end there, but
that's a brilliant.
It was just like listening to him, and also just him accepting that he was going to pass away as well.
It's a brilliant message though. It is, because you do get caught up, don't you? But when you break it, all the bullshit.
It's noise.
Down. It's all
noise.
bollocks.
It's noise, mate. Yeah. It's noise, mate.
One crack at this.
That's what I mean, mate.
Do you know what I mean? So one crack at this.
Yeah.
So we were talking before we came online with social media and stuff, and people getting eaten up what other people are doing and what they're saying about, and you think it doesn't mean anything. It's just noise.
I had this realisation once that, you know, how small our planet is in the expansion of the universe, and how there's us, that little one human in the 9 billion. And then you've got all the animals that are also thinking and worrying and trying. And then you've got the expansion of time. You know, where we are in the expansion of time. Like, it's a miracle. It's magic that we are having this little moment, and we just got to...
I think about that a lot. When you talk about the insignificance and that, I think about when you said that a lot. You know, just put all your problems and all that aside and just try and live.
Yes, mate.
Do you know what I mean? Try and live and maximise, like you say, this opportunity we get.
And catch yourself when you're not.
Yeah.
I think collectively, like, look at the lives we've all led and the opportunities and things we've seen. Like, how privileged you've been to compete at that level.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, mate. It's like most people's dreams, right? Like, people growing up as kids and you've done it, like, to know you've lived that life of that power is so incredible.
But even without the world titles and the medals, like, being able to go to the Pyrenees, go to the Alps, go to Brazil, wherever it is, just like live. Adventure, see, live, breathe, like, experience life.
It's funny because I probably feel more hungry now about living than I did before. Yes, it's been a fantastic life, and now I really want to live.
Yeah. See as much as there is to see. Yeah.
John, thank you so
Thanks,
much, mate.
mate.
Honestly,
Thank you,
that was
mate.
brilliant. That was
Thanks a lot.
brilliant.
Really appreciate it.